My name is Tatiana Domilovskaya. I'm the regional director of CERBA-Vancouver chapter, and I'm happy to open our seminar, Construction and Infrastructure, the Roadmap of Successful Canada-Eurasia Cooperation. Today, we have a substantial crowd of participants from the number of Eurasian countries, Belarus, Kazakhstan, Latvia, Russia, and Uzbekistan. The seminar will be held in English with consecutive Russian translation. This seminar today is organized to introduce the latest trends in West Canada construction industry and set the grounds for the international business mission coincided with international trade show BUILDEX-Vancouver, scheduled for 29th and 30th of September. Fingers crossed, these plans will not be interrupted. I now open the program and would like to introduce our first speaker, Ms. Erin Campbell. Erin is one of the most versatile people I ever met in my life. She has a substantial experience of government and political work. In the last years, Ms. Campbell founded a number of successful international businesses with operations in various countries, including Eurasia. Erin is the chair of CERBA-Vancouver Board of Directors and a member of the National Board. She is also an honorary consul of the Russian Federation in BC. Erin, the stage is yours.
Thank you so much, Tatiana, for that very warm introduction. I'm very pleased to be here with everybody this morning and welcome you to this important seminar. As Tatiana mentioned, my name is Erin Campbell, and I'm the chair of the CERBA British Columbia chapter, as well as a national director of CERBA. You know, this event is part of our activities supported within the CanExport trade diversification program that was established by the Government of Canada about 3 years ago. That program has been incredibly helpful to CERBA and organizations like CERBA in continuing to make sure that Canadian businesses are connecting with international partners and international customers. So I just want to, first of all, really say thank you to the Government of Canada for continuing that important program. And even during the times of COVID, where trade missions have been curtailed, that support is still very valuable as we continue to build these programs. As Tatiana mentioned, this visit was planned to take place in February of this year, but it has now been postponed to the end of September to coincide with the BUILDEX trade show at the end of September. We are very hopeful that we'll be able to welcome our international partners and international delegates to Vancouver alongside of the BUILDEX program. And we'll hear more about that program later in this morning's seminar. Today, we have with us Eurasian organizations interested in both construction industry in Western Canada and best practices, as well as some of the construction company clusters from Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Belarus, Latvia, Uzbekistan, and Russia. I'm sure there maybe even be a few others from a few other spots. So if I've missed you, I definitely apologize. CERBA events tend to attract an incredibly diverse group of individuals and companies from all over the world, and we're thankful and grateful that we get to build these connections so that we can continue to work together, around the world. During the seminar today, you're going to hear about some of the advanced opportunities for technological exchange, import and export characteristics and considerations, and investment in the construction industry, both in Canada as well as elsewhere. And we will also have a presentation walking you through the BUILDEX 2021 International Trade Show and the Eurasian business mission that CERBA will be offering to the BUILDEX delegates. As you may know, CERBA has already organized and hosted a few different missions of these types, just in sectors as diverse as construction, mining, international business development, technological parks, and our missions have included groups from as diverse as Moscow State University, Belarus Chamber of Commerce, Mongolia Society of Economic Geologists, as well as many other both organized groups and individual businesses. Although this has been a challenging year, we hope that the mission will be taking place as planned, and we help to accelerate the mutually beneficial business-to-business connections between Eurasia and Western Canada. We have an interesting program for you today. Our first speaker will be Mr. Michael Geller. Mr. Michael Geller is the principal of the Geller Group. He's also very well known, almost famous, I would say, Michael, adjunct professor at SFU at Simon Fraser University Center for Sustainable Development. He's going to speak about some of the aspects of the modern construction industry in Canada and what's new and where things are going from there. Next, we will have Mr. Warren Senkowski. Mr. Warren Senkowski is the Trade Commissioner from Global Affairs Canada, the Pacific Regional Office. And then finally, we will hear from Chris Greffiths. He is one of the organizers of the BUILDEX-Vancouver show that we are very much hoping everyone is able to come and join us at and enjoy our beautiful city of Vancouver as well. And then finally, Tatiana, who you've already met, she's the regional director of our CERBA-Vancouver chapter, and she's going to give some details about the Eurasian business mission to Vancouver that will coincide with the BUILDEX 2021. So I want to thank all of our organizers for putting together this excellent seminar. Thank the team from CERBA who worked tirelessly on this. I'd like to thank our speakers for spending this time with us early in the morning in Vancouver time. And I really look forward to hearing the presentations today. Thank you very much and welcome to the presentations.
Thank you, Erin. We have an interesting program, and now I'm passing the stage to Michael Geller, who Erin already introduced, and who will say a couple of words about his project and his experiences in construction in Canada and in Eurasia. Michael, the stage is yours.
Good morning, everybody. It's my pleasure to join you, starting with a photograph of Vancouver. This is very much how our city looks when you fly over it in one of the seaplanes. So I will like to mention a little bit about myself in Canada, tell you a little bit about my experiences in different Eurasian countries, and then quickly review some of the key types of construction that we are using in Canada, but especially in Western Canada, and then talk about two new ideas. And then my colleague Warren will elaborate a little bit on some of these ideas. So I'm not an engineer like many of you. I am not a construction expert, but I have been an architect. I am a property developer and consultant. And as mentioned, I am on the faculty, adjunct faculty of a university. I used to work for the government, then I joined the private sector. And so I have a broad range of experience across Canada, both with large projects and small projects. And locally, I've been involved in building both wood frame and concrete. And so, as I mentioned, a variety of projects that I have built, including I'm currently working on a golf course community. And if you do come to Vancouver, and if you are golfers, I will be more than pleased to show you my golf course community. As you can see, I have on many occasions been to Russia, but also Kazakhstan, Azerbaijan, Georgia, and Ukraine. I once tried to go to Belarus, but I was unable to get in without the right transit visa. And 8 years ago, I was invited to join the jury for the International Financial Center competition in Moscow. This was a very prestigious project and a wonderful opportunity. And as some of you may know, an international team was selected, and I understand this project is now getting underway on 400 acres just outside of Moscow, although now part of the city. 3 years ago, I was fortunate to be invited to Astana, now near Sultan, to assist in selecting planning team to prepare a new plan for the capital city. And again, a model which slowly will change as that development takes place. More recently, I have been working with representatives of the government in Azerbaijan, again, to try and share lessons from Canada on topics as different as remediation of contaminated sites or sustainable development with an audience there. So over the years, I have made many presentations trying to offer what lessons Canada can share. In St. Petersburg, lessons about heritage. In Astana, some of the lessons we have learned to create tourism through architecture, and also on sustainable planning and development. But I've also come back and brought lessons to Vancouver and other parts of Canada from Russia, Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, because while I'm here talking about what we're doing, I am well aware that in many respects, you are advanced compared to us in certain types of construction and development, and I'm always impressed with what I see in your countries. But in Canada, we basically build out of wood or out of concrete. We generally do not use steel construction in Western Canada. And although we've had some experience with prefabricated construction, we are well behind you and other European countries in prefabrication. But if you leave Vancouver and you go to Toronto, there you will see some examples of buildings using this type of lightweight steel construction. And I must admit, I'm often surprised that we don't use more because it does offer many advantages. Similarly, Canada has a history with prefabrication. Some of you may have seen this image from the 1960s at a World Fair in Montreal, where this marvelous development was created using concrete boxes manufactured in a factory and then transferred to the site. More recently, we have been starting to use modular construction in Vancouver. This is temporary housing. This is a concept of building housing, in this case, for poor people, homeless people. And after 5 years or so, this housing will be moved to another site. I'm proud to say this was an idea that I did as my university thesis 50 years ago, now being built. It used to be, though, that buildings up to 4 stories, we use wood construction. Like your countries, we have quite a lot of wood. But then a number of years ago, in 2009, the government changed our regulations to allow us to go from 4 floors to 6 floors in wood construction. Now, at the time, there was concern. Is this going to create a dangerous situation where buildings will catch fire? And indeed, at the beginning, there were problems. But we have managed to minimize the number of fires over the years. As I mentioned, concrete construction was generally used for taller buildings, and we have many in Vancouver, as you do in your countries. However, more recently, we have started to build what we call mid-rise buildings, 6 to 8 stories, 10 stories in concrete, and they have become more common. This is one of my developments. By building in concrete rather than wood, it appealed to a lot of people who feel that it's a more sturdy type of building. People in Vancouver have been complaining that too many of our buildings look the same, just big boxes in the sky. Well, this recently completed project, a combination of Canadian and Danish architect, definitely is not a boring building. Indeed, many people as they drive by it worry whether or not it's going to fall over, especially if we have an earthquake, because we are very much in an earthquake zone. More recently, other more interesting proposals have come forward, particularly promoting more sustainable green building concepts. These are two new buildings being proposed for Vancouver. The one on the left is supposed to remind us of trees. It's not, in my opinion, the most beautiful building, but it is definitely interesting. The one on the right has recently been approved, and it is a passive house building, which I will talk about in a minute. But again, an effort to create more interesting shapes of development. When we build industrial and office construction, we tend to go to concrete as well. Although in other parts of Canada, steel construction is more common for office buildings. However, recently a new office building was built in steel in Vancouver, which, because of its unusual shape, made more sense with this type of construction. And it is now just being finished. And when you come to Vancouver, you will see it completed. So I would like to conclude with two new ideas. The first one, we went from 4-story wood to 6-story wood. And now the government is allowing us to go to 12-story in wood, but not with conventional wood, with what we call cross-laminated timber, CLT products. I suspect you're all becoming familiar with these. Large pieces of wood created from smaller pieces of wood glued together. Now, some people worry, 12 stories in wood, is this not going to be dangerous? Well, in fact, studies have demonstrated that even in fires, these products perform very well, not that differently from concrete, in fact. And so we see a great future in what we call heavy timber construction. This is a building that was recently completed on the grounds of the university in Vancouver. And it demonstrated that you can go up to, in this case, 18 stories in wood. The only thing that was concrete, as you can see in the photo, was the elevator core. It was done in concrete. And this building, because people could come and see it, has demonstrated that it is quite possible to build taller buildings in wood. And we're beginning to see a variety of other shapes of buildings, all using this heavy timber wood construction. One of the reasons I like it is because it does have a sustainable quality. Wood is a sustainable product. And now we're beginning to see even taller buildings, not just for offices, but also expensive luxury condominiums. The Canadian government and the provincial government are promoting wood construction. Obviously, we would like to export some of our products, and this is beginning to happen, especially in Asia, where there are many examples now of Canadian wood technology. And each year we have Ward's program to show both wood buildings in Canada and wood buildings from around the world. I often like to write about some of these buildings because, again, it used to be that wood was not considered as high a quality construction material as concrete. Now it's changing very much. In fact, many people are promoting wood. The second thing about Vancouver is we want to be a sustainable city. A former mayor said we would be the greenest city in the world by 2020. Well, it is now past 2020 and we are by no means the greenest city in the world, but you will find when you come here many innovations in terms of creating sustainable homes. And one of the goals right now is to increase the number of what we call in English net zero buildings, buildings that create as much energy as they use. And the goal is to, in fact, make all buildings energy efficient to this degree in the next few years. And so we are now learning from the European experience, not only with net zero, but with passive house. I suspect many of you are familiar with these buildings, which may cost a little bit more at the beginning, but the energy costs are so much less. So to conclude, it used to be that wood buildings were for the small buildings and concrete were the tall buildings. Now we're beginning to see concrete used for shorter buildings and wood being used for taller buildings. I am convinced, because of my participation in a number of projects over the years, that there are lessons that we can offer, but there's also many lessons that we can gain from you. And I hope this has given you some ideas as to how you can begin to think differently about construction in your countries. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael. It was absolutely fascinating presentation, and I feel like I need to go to Vancouver and see these new buildings, which I haven't seen because we are all sitting at home, working from home during this pandemic situation. Thank you so much. I would like to remind everyone that we have a Q&A box down on your screen. And if you have any questions, please type them into this box so we can ask them later on after our presentations are done. So now I would like to invite to the stage our next speaker, Warren Senkowski. It's our very special guest, and I'm greatly appreciate that he was able to find time to participate at our seminar. Warren, it's yours.
Thank you, Tatiana. So thanks, Michael, for the excellent presentation. I'm going to follow up with some similar themes on the building sector in British Columbia, but I'll go into more detail about specific products and companies that you can find here. So my presentation has 6 parts: some trends in the building sector first, and then I'll mention some key companies that are making products, a range of different things, and then companies that are making specifically wood products. I'll talk about a few notable projects that we've had, buildings that were finished in the recent years, and then just a quick mention of smart cities and what this means for Canada, and then describe a few of the stakeholders in the building industry. So the trends that we're seeing in British Columbia and in Canada as well in recent years are 3 of them. First, green and sustainable buildings. Every architect, engineer, property developer, they're all trying to make their buildings energy efficient, but it's more than just energy and heating and cooling. It's also low embodied carbon. So we're starting to see full life cycle assessments done on some buildings. And this includes things like the choice of which building materials to use for construction, how the construction process was done, how much energy was required to bring the materials to the site, and how much energy will be used after the demolition of the building when it's done, those sorts of things. So the full environmental impact of buildings is now being calculated. And I'm sure many of you are familiar with the LEED building standard, which is a high performance building. But here in Canada, as Michael mentioned, we're moving to other standards such as Passive House and Net Zero. Passive House began in Europe, and it has to do with very airtight buildings that have low energy transfer between inside and outside. So these buildings typically use much, much less energy and save a lot of money compared to a traditional building. Tall wood buildings are starting to replace concrete and steel. And this is for both environmental reasons as well as driven by government policies and codes that allow them. The City of Vancouver has a Greenest City Action Plan where it tries to improve the condition of buildings, make them greener, and also the transportation in the city. The province of British Columbia passed a law that's called the Energy Step Code, which will require all new buildings to be net zero energy ready by 2032. And building codes in the province and in other provinces of Canada are also changing to allow mass timber buildings up to 12 stories. So that's a higher restriction than it was previously. The second trend is modular prefabricated buildings. Instead of bringing all the materials to the job site and starting to work, it can be a lot more faster and more efficient, saving time and money if you can make them in a factory offsite and then just transport it. They often have better quality and safety because you're in an indoor environment. You're not exposed to the weather and other conditions. So you can really build a high quality building component in that indoor environment without having to have all those other factors. And they are suitable for many different types of buildings, but so far they're used for, you know, typical rectangular buildings, commercial, residential, and those sorts of things. The third trend is in smart cities. We're seeing a use of data and designs and technologies to improve citizen quality of life. This is still a new trend. There aren't very many standards in this area, but I will talk a little bit about what we're doing here in British Columbia on smart cities. So just to mention a few of the products right now, British Columbia is very strong in making high performance windows. So these windows are often Passive House certified. They go through tests to verify that they have a low heat transfer, and thereby they save energy and keep the indoors warm during the winter and cold during the summer. So some of the companies we have in this province that make those are Cascadia, Innotech, Westtech, Vinyltech, Euroline, and Fenster. All the companies that I'm mentioning today, by the way, many of them participate in the BUILDEX trade show. I've met them before. They have a booth and they're happy to meet international buyers. Another product range that we have is HVAC, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. So we've got a few different technologies here. One company, Kiko Water Systems, makes boilers more efficient. So you use less energy to heat the building, to heat water for the building. A second company, Core, makes energy recovery ventilators, which is what you see on the right. This allows heat to be kept inside the building, but air circulates back and forth so that you have fresh air coming into a room without losing the heating. And this is often used when you have very airtight buildings in order to ensure fresh air supply. Smart Cool Systems is a company that makes a smart refrigeration controller. So when you have, for example, in a supermarket, a large refrigerators keeping all the food cold, they have a software that makes it smarter, so it uses less energy. And then we have a company, Shark, that does drain water heat recovery. So it can pull some of the excess heat and reuse it in the building. We have concrete technologies. A few companies here, Crichton and Carbon Cure. Crichton has been around since the 1970s, and they make a crystalline mixture that, a few of them actually, one of them makes concrete waterproof and another one makes concrete harder, so it resists wear and tear. And they extend the life of concrete structures and make them stronger. Carbon Cure is a company that injects CO2 into concrete. So it's a green environmental solution because you can take CO2 from some other source and trap it in a building, and it actually makes the concrete stronger, and then it stays there. In the modular building space, we've got a number of companies. You can see the image on the right. This is what it looks like. You have a huge factory where the modules are built ahead of time, and then they're taken on a truck to the job site and put together. So the companies what we have are Metric Modular, Horizon North, Cube, Stack Modular, and Weatherhaven. We have a few companies with innovative building materials, one of which is called Nexi. They just opened a few years ago, and they have a unique material that is not wood or steel or concrete. It's a silica-based formula that allows for a panelized prefabricated building system that saves time and money for construction companies. And then another company, Miro Smart, that is making glass with controllable shading. So if you are in a building that's exposed to a lot of direct sunlight, you can darken the windows by the push of a button and then make them lighter as well. So that helps to reduce the amount of air conditioning you have to use to cool the room. British Columbia is famous for wood products. We have a lot of wonderful companies in this sector. It's the largest wood products producing province in Canada. And the main species that we deal with in dimensional lumber are spruce, pine, and fir, as well as western red cedar and hemlock. There's many companies selling lumber, so I won't mention them, but the industry association is BC Wood, and you can search on the member directory to find companies. We also have engineered wood, which is where they take pieces of wood and glue them together, and you can make products like cross-laminated timber for the floor and wall panels, or glue-laminated timber for the posts and beams. They meet the fire and seismic requirements that are necessary for tall buildings. As Michael mentioned, when these catch fire, they do not burn all the way through, but instead the outside will char and then it remains structurally strong. So they're a great choice for buildings up to 20 stories and perhaps beyond. And we have a number of companies in this sector: Structure Lamb, Structure Craft, Kolesnikov, Fraser Wood, Briscoe, Western Arch Rib, making all of these products. Then we have log and timber frame homes. So we have some very nice companies in this sector that can make custom homes out of wood products. Pioneer, Panabode, Pacific Sky, Daizen Joinery, Tai, and Tamlin are some of the main companies we have in this sector. I'll talk about a few projects now that have gained attention in this province. Brock Commons, as Michael showed briefly, is a 400-student residence at the University of British Columbia. It was 18 stories tall of prefabricated structural wood, cross-laminated timber, and glue-lam. It was the tallest wood building in the world, I believe, at the time when it was constructed, but other tall buildings have come that are even taller. And it's still the tallest wood building in North America. It was built in only 70 days, 4 months faster than a typical project. And by using wood instead of concrete, they avoided 2,400 metric tons of CO2 equivalent. A second university building at Trinity Western University was done called Jacobson Hall. It houses 220 students. And it's a 5-story prefabricated modular building that was designed and built by Metric Modular. It was very quick. They needed to get a student residence ready before the school term began. So they chose this construction technology and this company to do it. And it was done 50% faster than a typical construction project. We have a Starbucks here on the right. I'm sure everybody knows Starbucks and you've probably been there. But what's different about this building is that it was built in only 6 days with near zero waste by Nexi using their special prefabricated panels that are lightweight, waterproof, and fire resistant. So it's considered a sustainable Starbucks as opposed to the typical materials that they would use. This building had 30% lower carbon emissions than a regular cafe. And then on the bottom right, we have a picture of a residential building. It's actually mixed use because on the ground floor, you have some retail shops, and above that, you have condominiums. So this is the Heights on Skeena. It's a passive house building, the largest one in Canada, which means that it has very airtight rooms that require very low energy for heating and cooling. And the way they achieve this is by using very high performance windows and insulation as well as heat recovery ventilator units. And they avoid thermal bridging, which is basically heat transfer from the inside to the outside. And that's how they reduce the energy cost. So this one uses 80 or 90% less energy than a typical building. Now I want to change for a moment and talk about smart cities. So this is a very new trend. There aren't a lot of standards, and there is not even agreement as to the definition of what it is. But in any case, it's a multi-sector, technology-driven trend that offers solutions to the challenges of urban life, such as traffic, pollution, and waste. The way they do that is with Internet of Things software and hardware. And they focus on improving transportation, improving energy systems, building a circular economy, and engaging citizens so that they feel that they have a more of a voice in how the city is managed. Some of the challenges, though, with smart cities are privacy. When you use a lot of data, you always have to think about protecting the privacy of citizens. And then the definitions and priorities can be different depending on which jurisdiction, which country or city you're talking about. In Canada, it's the municipal governments themselves, mayors and city councils, that are really driving the progress on smart cities. And occasionally the provincial and federal governments and the private sector will have their own initiatives as well. But there is no national strategy on this right now. We're still learning about it and trying to figure out what works. In 2019, though, the federal government had a Smart Cities Challenge where they awarded prizes and money to some of the best innovations in a few parts of Canada. So in British Columbia, these are just a small selection of some of the companies we have in the smart city space. Spare Labs is a transportation company. They have mobility platforms that include ride sharing, smart shuttles, and custom solutions. And this helps to fill the gap between private vehicles and public transportation, and by offering a hybrid solution. Urban Logic is a company that has planning analytics that integrate various data sources. So what they do is they allow urban planners and city planners to make better decisions about zoning and what to do with different neighborhoods and where to put their investments based on trends, economic data, social data, and many different sources of information. Quadrigen Power Systems is a company that converts waste biogas from landfills and other sites into clean energy. So this helps to make a city more environmentally friendly by reducing the gas that would otherwise be wasted. And finally, Rainforest Automation is a company that gives residential power optimization solutions for energy providers using the Internet of Things devices. So they allow for more efficient management of energy systems. And there are many other kinds of smart city companies, but I can provide names if you like. And these are just a few examples of some of the technologies that we're starting to use. Finally, the stakeholders in the building sector you'll find in British Columbia include Canada Green Building Council, which focuses not as much on the products, but more on the architecture and engineering. They have an annual conference in Vancouver or Toronto. We have Passive House Canada, which is the local chapter of an international organization. We have a zero emissions building exchange, which is a network basically to discuss the best practices and the latest technologies between building professionals. We have a high performance building lab at a university, the British Columbia Institute of Technology, that offers training for the tradespeople to learn how to build high performance buildings. And finally, University of British Columbia has a building for testing new technologies and designs called the Center for Interactive Research on Sustainability. And that is all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Warren. Very interesting presentation. It's nice to see that some of those companies you have been mentioning are actually working with us, as well as the educational institutions. So I hope that we will continue building up relationships with these companies, and those guests who will come to Vancouver this fall will probably meet with them. Thank you so much. So now we are coming to a more practical presentation, and I will invite to the stage Chris Greffiths, who is representing INFORMA CONNECT, the organizer of BUILDEX-Vancouver. And actually the same organization also organizer of a conference, Construct Canada in Toronto, which usually happens in December. Before I'm passing the stage to Chris, I would like to remind that we have the Q&A box where we expect your questions. Our Russian-speaking audience, please don't be shy. Type your questions in Russian. We will translate them for our speakers. So let's just do our Q&A really interactive and interesting. And now I pass the stage to Chris Greffiths. Chris.
Thank you, Tatiana. Hi, everybody. My name is Chris Greffiths. I'm part of INFORMA CONNECT, as Tatiana kindly led everyone there. We are the organizers of BUILDEX-Vancouver, as well as BUILDEX Alberta, as well as Construct Connect and the Building Show out in Toronto. Before I dive into what BUILDEX is, just so you guys know, INFORMA CONNECT, we have offices globally. INFORMA CONNECT is in Canada here. However, INFORMA has offices all around the world here. And just to give you a little bit of background about who we are, so that way you know how we take care of everything, is INFORMA became INFORMA in 1998, and our head office is based in the UK. We've come a long way since the original history of what was called Lloyd's List in 1734. So needless to say, we've been around for a while. What we've put on many events worldwide, as I mentioned, one of which being BUILDEX is our very popular show out west. It is the building construction show out west, especially in Western Canada, in both respected markets of Vancouver as well as Calgary. Today, we'll be talking to you, or I'll be talking to you about the Vancouver show. Now, this year is going to be a very special year for the Vancouver BUILDEX, and I will be mentioning all of this in my presentation here with you today. Before I dive into it, some folks here also may know INFORMA, as a lot of people, when I talk to them, regardless of if they're Canadian, United States, or international, one of the shows that often gets people talking and then they understand who we are is Fan Expo. So this is a very popular consumer show that we do put on. So BUILDEX-Vancouver. So BUILDEX-Vancouver, oops, hold on a second, I lost my slide, didn't work here, guys, just a moment. There we go. So BUILDEX-Vancouver this year, this is going to be the overview of what I'll be chatting to you guys about. It's going to be a very special show. Throughout our long 30-year history in Vancouver, we've put on many different styles of BUILDEX, and this year is going to be a unique style once again. Due to things that have been going on in the world, as you all know, with the pandemic that has been happening, we decided this year to put on a stronger show, as strong of a show as we possibly can, and merge the interior design show with BUILDEX-Vancouver. What this does is it merges two extremely strong shows together and will help drive that audience through those show doors, as well as give you an even more diverse audience and exhibitor profile that you would not normally have by merging the two shows. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk to you guys briefly about who attends. then about the audience, sort of give you an idea of what the cost is to be in this event, as well as I'll elaborate on a few other things. Give you guys an idea of who's been there previously from the 2020 show, as our last show was February of 2020. So we actually were able to get a show in before everything changed. I have a few testimonials I'd love to share with you guys, and these folks have become pillars in the show. And then one more time, who attends the show, to really make sure hammer home that point, and then a little graphic to show you a few other sponsors and supporting associations. Now, who attends the BUILDEX-Vancouver trade show? As you can see here, we have a very diverse attendee profile, if you want to call it that. 45% come from the construction management, project management, contractor, renovator, architectural design, and interior design aspects of the world. Also, the construction section happens to be the largest section within our show. We have different sections within the show that each cater to each one of these attendee profiles. For example, we have the property management section, which you'll see a lot of the real estate financing, many of the contractors, even theirs, they want to get in with the property managers. There's a construction section. Now, this is going to have all kinds of things in the show, from your basic construction all the way up to the pouring of a concrete foundation, everything above and beyond what you'd normally think. Last year for myself, even walking through the construction section was quite the learning experience, because you don't realize how much more stuff goes into some of these builds until you're physically talking with these folks. Another popular section would be the architecture and design. Often when you walk into the architecture and design section, you will be blown away by the exhibits that you see. Last year, in fact, within that section, we had a couple of what you call Best in Show Booth Awards handed out within that section. Now, what that is you are given an award for it, and we will advertise that you won an award. And not only that, these are eye-catching as all can be. They are just phenomenal. They'll blow you away. I know they blew me away. I have to hit a different thing here. The final section I wanted to chat about was the IDS section, which is the interior design section. This is new for this year, and this is going to be everything interior design related. This is a very popular area of the show, as they usually have their own show, but then, like I mentioned, we've merged for this year. Much like what Warren and Michael both spoke about, there is a section of this show which is called the Passive House Canada section, and this is basically everything that relates to what both of these gentlemen were talking about what Passive House is all about in terms of those initiatives by 2032, as well as basically being green and cleaner. So we have an entire section where it incorporates the companies as well as some of the representatives that come on out to share their stories. What would you expect to see at BUILDEX Alberta? For one, if you are an exhibitor at the show, and keep in mind, I'm giving this as if you are going to be an exhibitor of the show. Now, if you flip that would give you the idea of, if you were an attendee, what you'd also expect to see. If you're exhibiting, you're going to generate qualified leads. So every single person that walks through there, you know that they are related to that industry. You're going to develop new interest from established customers. And again, you could be cross-selling, upselling. You could meet somebody on the show floor that you've been waiting to meet, but unfortunately a phone call just didn't suffice. Very big and popular, launching new products. We love to see people with new products, and attendees love to see that when they come through, because it shows technological advances as well as green advances in the industry, which are huge right now. What other things that you can expect to see? Anything in the show from, like I mentioned, about who's there, who exhibits the architectural products, the wood products, lighting, landscape products, windows. Both Michael and Warren mentioned windows. And yes, so the folks that were mentioned in those displays were also mentioned in Warren's presentation here. Those folks are all excited to be part of the show once again. Here's a little pointer where, again, you're going to see what it is that these folks are paying to be part of the show. I know, in a nutshell, some of you are coming over as a attendee for the show to see the show, and may or may not be necessarily exhibiting. Nonetheless, should you guys choose to connect with some of these folks and down the road become one of our exhibitors, I have all of the pricing here on the right-hand side. Now, in terms of what we call ROI, or return on investment, so you're going to have tailor-made sessions, so 70 plus seminars. This is a conference program that we put on that will include everything that you could really think of, everything from window companies, much like Warren was talking about, and their latest technology to keep energy efficient buildings going, all the way up to cutting edge technology in the building and construction sector. Now, this could literally be anything. We've had quite an array in the past. I would invite you guys to check out our website, BUILDEX-Vancouver.com, as we have an entire list of every speaker and session that has been held over the past few years at our exhibition. So one thing I mentioned before with our 30-year history is we are definitely enriched in the community. We've been around for over 30 years now in Vancouver, so people know us as the building show to go to in Vancouver. The networking events, which I always encourage everybody to do, and if when you guys are here, I would definitely encourage it. They're wonderful ways where you can go and meet the exhibitors and a few attendees in a more relaxed environment where you don't have to worry about being on a show floor. You don't have to worry about being rushed, where here you can actually stand with them. We often have drinks and snacks that are being passed around. Very, very, very popular event at the BUILDEX show. 2020 exhibitors you see here. Now, again, these are all Canadian companies with a few exceptions. You'll see Passive House Canada. They are mentioned in here, and they've been mentioned in the previous presentations. One that you will not see here that they are all usually part of the show, and I've always had conversations with them, and Warren, you brought them up, so thank you kindly for this very great segue, and that is BC Woods. So they are usually involved as well, and Warren, you gave such a wonderful introduction into that, so I know that they'll be back again. But here's what the companies that you will expect to see at the show. As previously said, they were in the shows last year. So moving forward to this year, these are all companies that I have had conversations with, and we are looking forward to putting on a show again with each and every single one of these companies. Now, it may sound funny when you say, don't take it from me, take it from the people that have been in the show. Each one of these folks, I have a few testimonials here. These folks have all been involved in BUILDEX-Vancouver in one way, shape, or form. The folks that you see here, we have what you call a VIP lounge, which is on the show floor. We use it as a networking lounge where you can sit down with people you meet on the show floor. You can grab a coffee, you can grab a drink with them. And again, have a nice relaxed environment. Crawford Compliance has been a part of our show year after year, and without any question, always make sure that they're part of that VIP lounge. This is where it got stuck last time. So again, one last time, this is on who attends in case I missed anybody the first time around when I saw when that slide came up. Now again, the numbers here year after year, they do change. Now you can also see in terms of the sectors, 55% from the commercial sector, as we are a business-to-business show. That's our primary focus. We do get a little bit of the residential for those the people that want to renovate their homes. Educational institutions, again, a very small part of the show. However, very influential part of the show is when they're there, they make sure they leave their mark. A smaller percentage, 4%, government and policymakers. However, they're always interesting to chat with, as when they're on the show floor or they're part of the seminar, they always have very enriching things that they want to enlighten people with. And then 7% industrial and property development. This would be things that, so the developments for the city planners and such. However, coming back to it, we are primarily a B2B show. So a lot of the folks that you are going to meet at the show, it's going to be a business to business meeting. Last but not least, I know mine's not as long as the other guys. Mine's a little less ingrained with a lot of the detail which the other gentleman had. These are a good idea of who's been part of the event in terms of high-level sponsorships, media sponsors, and supporting associations. The supporting associations, I saw a lot of crossover from this slide to Warren's slide as well, which tells you there's a lot of people that are supporting the BuildX show in the city of Vancouver. They all believe in it. They've been a part of it. They've seen the results that they can give. So in a nutshell, looking forward to seeing you guys all in Vancouver this fall. When you get there, I'll be more than happy to show you all around. Hopefully, I'll be able to smile at you through a mask if that's what's needed. But I look forward to meeting every single one of you guys when you guys all get there. Thank you very much and stay safe.
Thank you, Chris. I just have to admit that BuildX is probably one of my most favorite shows, trade shows in Vancouver. I first saw it in 2006 when I was a new immigrant in Vancouver, and it was absolutely fascinating. And year by year, the show is developing, and sometimes it's just incredible what kind of products and technologies you can see there. And of course, it's a great opportunity for building up connections, talk to people, networking is incredible there. And I cordially invite everyone, all our listeners from Eurasia to consider this exhibition as one of the most fascinating happenings in Canada. And now it's time for me to do my 53 slides presentation about the trade show and the coincided trade mission, which we hope to put together this fall. So here it is. Just to start, because I know that there are quite a few companies and people on this event who doesn't really know much about our association, I would like to say just a couple of words about who we are and what is our role. We are quite well known, but somehow we are not really speaking too often about ourselves, and this is why there are people who know our name but don't really know what we do. Canada-Eurasia Business Association is practically the only Canadian business association that is covering CIS region, including 15 republics of the former Soviet Union and Mongolia. We have over 15 years of experience in developing trade and economic ties between Canada and Eurasia. CERBA has 9 chapters, including 6 across Canada, from Vancouver, Calgary, Winnipeg, Toronto, Montreal, and Ottawa, and 3 chapters overseas in Russia, Moscow, Almaty, Kazakhstan, and Tashkent, Uzbekistan, which actually makes us very close to the ground, and we can monitor all developments in economic or geopolitical landscapes in the countries of our focus. One of very effective activities which CERBA initiates and develops is the International Business Councils. We have 2 of such councils initiated by our association. One is Canada-Russia Business Council, and another is Canada-Kazakhstan Business Council, which allows us to access the highest level national and international projects, stakeholders, and opportunities which would be very difficult to access otherwise. CERBA community is over 200 members and few thousand contacts in public and private sector in Canada and on the ground in Eurasia, which creates a professional network of successful cross-border partnership, exchange of business experience, and in-market support. And here underneath, you see the banner with our sustaining members. It's big companies which create a core of our association. The benefits of the CERBA business missions. You know, we are talking to a lot of people, and business missions sometimes is regarded as the type of activity which normally in the last years probably not considered as the most effective. I spoke to some people which told me that, oh, you know, it's probably just a possibility for the group of people to go overseas and spend time going to some kind of shows, shoppings, and so on. So I have to tell you that CERBA business missions are different. First of all, because we are working closely with Global Affairs Canada, and in particular, the construction activities is supported within the CanExport business diversification program, initiated to help Canadians access new markets. So it is expected that our missions are actually giving tangible results and help people to really build up business connections. Our missions are compiled to ensure better understanding of national industrial practices, and this helps to establish sustainable business-to-business contacts. Why I'm talking about the understanding of national practices. You heard these presentations from our distinguished speakers, and you probably understand that some things in Canada are done differently than in the other countries. And if you better understand why it's done this way in Canada, it will be easier for you to understand the benefits of these products and technologies and applicability of these products in your countries. We are very careful when we are building up the program of the business mission, because we would like the delegates to participate in how we create this program. And we always consult with them regarding what kind of companies or subjects we would like to include. And of course, we provide comprehensive assistance in meetings, and achieving the business goals of the mission participants. And what is the most important, we help people to follow up on those contacts that are established during the mission, because sometimes you have a pile of business cards, but they are lost in time, and then those business connections which could bring to the real results are faded in time. We try to make sure that this is not happening. So what's in the package? For the missions like the one we are planning to coincide with BUILDEX 2021, it's gonna be a 5 to 7 business days program that includes participation at the 2-day BUILDEX trade show and related events. I strongly encourage everyone to look at BUILDEX not as just the exhibition ground, but as the networking platform and the opportunity to learn a lot of interesting professional facts. The business mission program will also include B2B roundtables with preliminarily identified potential Canadian partners, supporters, or buyers. We will also include site visits, because theoretical things are good as long as they are supported by the practical examples. And here, where we would like you to see the production facilities of the building materials, construction sites, best known complete projects, and everything else which we were talking about in the presentations earlier today. We also organize meetings with the policymakers and business leaders. Usually federal and provincial and municipal levels of Canadian governments are included into the program because it helps you better understand why certain things are done in the particular way. We provide negotiation assistance and post-mission follow-up, as I mentioned previously. And of course, we ensure visa support and logistical support when you are on the ground in Canada. We provide technical support in preparation of the mission materials, so all the contacts and projects information will be available for you. And of course, for those people who would like to learn more about our beautiful region, we provide a cultural program, which is optional, and it's outside of the main business program of the mission. A little bit about our partners and supporters. I don't believe that any of our missions and activities would be as successful if we are not having all the people and organizations working together with us. In Canada, it's of course our members, it's Global Affairs Canada, it's BC and other provincial governments, professional associations, policymakers, and other important stakeholders. In Eurasia, again, we have our members in many countries, embassies and trade missions of Eurasian countries in Canada, chambers of trade, professional associations, unions, and leading business holders. And of course, educational institutions who helps us to put logical content and scientific profiles into some of the subjects that we highlight. Here below, I put some logos of our partners with whom we are working currently. It's FinCom Group, Russia. It's a very good, big international company with multiple offices across the world. It's Octane Exchange, Knowledge Exchange Partnership. It's a Canadian consulting group which helps us with compiling the business program content. It's Belarusian Chamber of Commerce. We are working very closely with Mogilov chapter of it. I know that someone from this organization is on the seminar today, and I really appreciate the activities we have together with this chapter. And Kazakh National Company, Mr. Galimjan Matayev just was in touch with me over WhatsApp. He is a head of the representative office of this organization, which is located in Washington, D.C., and responsible for activities in Canada and the United States. And to conclude my presentation, I would like to let you know that we will organize a number of follow-up events in beginning April. These events will be more on the ground, where we organize direct dialogues with between the companies who would like to meet and talk about their business. So please expect we will be in touch with you shortly. And I would like to thank everyone for their attention, and really we are looking forward to finally seeing you in Vancouver. Here on the right side of the slide, you see contact information of the people who are currently involved in organizing of these activities with the CERBA mission to Vancouver. I hope that this list will be extended because we would like to reach out to our partners in Latvia. We would like to bring on board our partners from Belarus and the other countries. So stay in touch with us, and I hope that this mission will be a success. Okay, so it's now a time to switch to the Q&A. And let's see, there were some questions which we wanted to discuss. Okay, the question from Mr. Galimjan Matayev, the representative of Kazakh Invest. Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Michael and Warren, for the interesting presentation. Does BC has financial instruments for promoting these kinds of technologies? Let's say for different kinds of PPP projects. So Michael, I'll let you answer first, and then probably Warren can comment as well. Yeah. Michael.
Tatiana, first of all, I'm again pleased to participate in this, but I don't have the answer. But Warren does. At least he'll have a partial answer in terms of what incentives are coming both from the provincial government, but also the federal government to encourage the use of different products and participation in public-private partnerships. So I think Warren will be able to give a more complete answer than I can.
Yeah, in the province of BC, there's a provincial crown corporation called Infrastructure BC, and they help to coordinate between private and public sector on these kinds of PPP projects. This is not usually for typical residential and commercial buildings. This is for major infrastructure, like you have transportation and power assets and things like this. And then there's a conference, I can put it in the chat as well. There's the Canadian Council on Public-Private Partnerships, CCPPP, and they are the largest organization nationwide, and they have an annual conference in Toronto where a lot of organizations come together in order to discuss the trends in this. It's not really a sector, it's more of like a project delivery model, I would say. Yeah, so I'll just put that in the, Tatiana, you can see the Q&A bar, the answers, right?
Yes, I can see it, yes.
Yes, but this is, PPP is at a very high level, and what we were talking about is more on a low level. It's kind of like one-by-one buildings, how are they built and with which products. So yes, but the short answer is Canada is one of the world leaders on PPP. And the advantage that we've found with that is it can be, you can have better performance for the taxpayers' money, because rather than the traditional public procurement, it allows the private sector to use their strengths and efficiencies in the best possible way.
All right, thank you, Warren. The next question is from Mr. Michael M. And it's, I understand, to Michael Geller. Michael, you have not mentioned ICF technology, which increasingly popular. How do you compare ICF to wood and concrete?
So for those not familiar with the term ICF, I understand it to stand for insulated concrete forms. It's a form of construction that is not used very much certainly in Vancouver, although it is occasionally used for foundation construction and some single family homes. I suspect the person who asked the question is much more knowledgeable about the product than I am, and perhaps can share some information. But as we become more concerned about creating energy efficient homes, this is the type of product I expect to have greater interest in. One of the comments was, how does it compare with heavy timber construction? Again, from my experience, heavy timber construction tends to be used for taller buildings and is performing very well. The insulated concrete forms tend to be used more for lower forms of housing, single family housing, town housing. But if that answer is not satisfactory, perhaps the person who asked the question can share with you, Tatiana, a little bit more information from their perspective as well.
Right, thank you, Michael. The next question is to you again, is from Mr. Jack Laken. Question is wondering if smart city energy grid interactive super blocks have been considered in master planning.
Okay. So when I received that question, I suggested to the writer that, again, Warren would be a good person to address that, because that, of course, is one of the topics he briefly addressed. So Warren, perhaps I can pass that one over to you as well.
Sure. I'm not sure what he means by interactive super blocks, but what I can say is that the overall public power grid we have in North America, it's gotten more attention in recent years because of, during major storms and disasters, sometimes it goes down, and entire neighborhoods, sometimes a whole city, can lose power for hours or a day or 2 days in a long case. And so companies are looking, and also governments are looking at ways to make the grid smarter so that they can balance supply and demand of energy at different times and places, and they can use the right energy mix between renewables, non-renewables, distributed energy, those sorts of things. We have a number of smart grid companies in Canada that have technologies to help the power grid become basically more transparent and interactive and dynamic, so it can react to things, and it helps to ensure the reliable delivery of power, and also to save energy and save money. Like, I can provide some of those names after if the person is interested, but in terms of master planning, I don't have that technical knowledge. I don't know if they're thinking about those sorts of things at an overall planning level.
If I could just add one quick comment, one area where we are very involved in the master planning of communities is through what we call district energy systems. And these aren't necessarily providing electrical, but they are providing other forms of power. Had I had a little more time, I might have, I would have included some examples of successful district energy in new Vancouver communities. Certainly one worth investigating is what was installed at what's known as the Olympic Village in Vancouver. This was the village that was created for the 2010 Olympics. And it is a system that captures energy from the sewer pipes, from the heat within the sewer pipes, which is captured and then reused to serve the community. But certainly a number of other communities, including the university development at Simon Fraser University, with which I was involved, has installed a district energy system, and many other communities have as well. A number of the municipalities have also initiated district energy, although many of the developers prefer not to depend on it and prefer to install their own systems. But that is an aspect of master plan communities that is very much being discussed.
Thank you, Michael. Our time is coming to the end, but we have another interesting question. Michael, this is to you. This is from our Russian participant. His name is Mr. Viktor Maslov, and he is from the government of Domilovsky region. Michael, how do you ensure the strengths of the wooden construction when you build the multi-story houses? And another question, how do you ensure the high-level fire resistance of these buildings?
So I received this question in Russian during the presentations, and thanks to Google Translate, was able to understand it a little bit better. In terms of the strength of the CLT products, these are independently tested and certified as would be a timber product. And so that is how the engineers are able to determine what thickness of product would be required in order to support certain loads. With respect to the fire safety, there's a number of measures that are being put in place. The first thing, though, is, as that slide hopefully illustrated, these cross-laminated timber products are surprisingly fire resistant. Although we traditionally think of wood as a very flammable product, because of the way they're constructed in themselves, they are very, very solid. However, one does not want to see them suffer or weakened in the event of a fire. And so we are now looking at a variety of other fire safety measures. There are units that are brought to the site so that in the event that a fire starts, you can have spray and the ability to spray multi-levels of construction as soon as the fire starts. And these units are being used not just for construction projects, but also in the event of forest wildfires. The other thing is these buildings are all sprinklered, but of course the sprinklers are not installed as the building is going up, but efforts are made to install the sprinklers before the building is finished. And so that you do have that secondary ability as well. It's a very good question. And that's one of the reasons both Warren and I discussed including slides to show how these heavy timber wood products do perform in the event of fire. It's not as fireproof, of course, as concrete, but it can be as fireproof as steel construction, even more fireproof than steel. And using these new techniques, we are able to create fairly safe buildings. We've not actually had any major problems that I'm aware of in the last few years. Maybe Warren can comment, with heavy timber wood construction while a project was being completed, and certainly no problems once they're finished.
Yeah, if I can just say a quick comment on that. Mass timber buildings are very different from what we call stick frame construction in Canada. That's where you use small dimensional lumber, like 2 inches by 4 inches, and you're building like a single family home. That's stick frame construction with wood. But mass timber is much stronger. It's a totally different type of product. And it goes through rigorous testing before any of it is used in buildings. So I put a link under Michael's answer to an organization called FP Innovations. That's a group that does fire testing on mass timber products, and they have scientific reports where you can read about the performance under different conditions. There's also been seismic testing where they do like a shaking of sample buildings to simulate an earthquake. And they've shown that it meets all of the necessary codes, even here in British Columbia, where we're in a seismic zone. So they're good and safe.
Thank you, Warren. So I think those are all questions we wanted to discuss today. Thank you very much. I just typed my contact email into the chat for all participants. Please get in touch with me. We would like to hear your opinion about this event and more questions that we probably would like to discuss between now and summertime during the preparation process for the upcoming business mission. We would like to hear from you. And just a second, there is another question down there. Okay. So the last question is from Roman Kratsu. We would like to know how the waterproofing of the buildings is provided. So plan for production of bitumen materials for waterproofing and road construction. In our line, there are products for waterproofing using solvent and using water. Which of these products is more used? So does anyone, Warren or Michael, would you like to comment on that?
Tatiana, I don't feel qualified to describe that, but if somebody wants to send me an email through you or at my email address, which I'll put on the chat, I'll be more than happy, if it's specific, to take that question to one of the contractors that I work with to give a specific example. And indeed, to anybody who's watching this, all being well, I had my vaccine shot yesterday. Hopefully all of you are starting to have yours, that a year from now, we will be able to travel again. I am looking forward to returning to Russia, to Kazakhstan and other Eurasian countries, as I'm sure all of you are interested in coming here. So I'm happy to keep this conversation going. I don't have many of the answers, but I know who does. So I'll be happy to get answers to these detailed questions.
Thank you, Michael. Warren, would you like to comment on something?
Yeah, I typed a short answer. It depends what the building is made of. So if you have a concrete building and you want to waterproof it, in my presentation, I mentioned one company that's very well known called Crichton. They have KIM, which is crystal internal membrane. You basically mix these crystals when you're mixing the wet concrete, and then you pour it, and after it dries, it becomes waterproof from the inside, and you don't need any external membrane or anything else. So this is a good solution. But if it's a wood building, I don't think they do any waterproofing. I mean, they might have a protective coating, but they're like, they just, they don't use the same kind of products.
Tyvek sheeting is the most common product that we use on wood frame construction as part of the waterproofing and installation system. We have had many problems with water penetration in wood buildings over the years, and are now becoming quite accomplished at preventing those sorts of problems. One of the key, of course, is to create what we call umbrella architecture, which is by having a roof that, whether flat or sloping, that covers the walls. That is often the best way to make sure that a building is going to perform. But we've had some very sad lessons in learning that in Canada.
Thank you, Michael. So I think we are done with the questions. In the meantime, again, I ask all the participants, please be in touch with us. I provided my email address. through myself, you can easily get in touch with our speakers and the companies in our region. And I also provided my cell phone number, which is also registered on WhatsApp and Telegram. So thank you again. It was a very interesting event. I think we had a really good crowd from a number of Eurasian countries and from Canada, of course. So thank you, and let's continue our talks. And we all are looking forward to meet all of you in Vancouver later this year for the trade mission and for BUILDEX trade show. I think if there are no any other comments, our meeting can be adjourned. We are almost 10 minutes over time, but I think it was a pleasure to talk to you.